Have you ever really stopped to think about what shapes a generation? It's so much more than just the music they listened to or the clothes they wore. We're going to dive into the psychology of the children who grew up in the 1960s, a generation forged in a time of incredible uncertainty, and see how that created a really unique and obviously an often misunderstood mindset. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the feeling of the time. This was not a gentle, easygoing era. It was tense. It felt like the very ground beneath society's feet was starting to shift and crack. So, to really get the people, you've got to get the world they were born into. And the 1960s, well, turbulent is probably putting it mildly. What's so wild is that this was really the first time television was in pretty much every living room. And it was broadcasting a world that was, well, loud, divided, and uncertain. All of society's problems, the wars, the protests, they weren't far off concepts anymore. They were right there in the living room, flickering on the screen every single night. And just look at the pace of it all. This wasn't just one big, shocking event. It was a constant stream of them, one after another. I mean, can you imagine being a little kid and learning very early on that the world is just not a predictable or stable place? And that right there, that gets to the absolute heart of it. Kids feel that stuff, Even if they don't have the big words to describe it, they absorbed all that anxiety, that tension, and they could sense that the grown-ups didn't really have all the answers either. Okay, so let's dig into how this chaotic world ended up creating a completely different kind of childhood. All of this exposure, it had a huge effect. It basically forced a whole generation to grow up in ways that we might find kind of hard to recognize today. So this is the key difference right here. For generations before, there was this idea of shielding children from the harsh realities of the world. But for the kids of the 60s, there was no shield, there was no filter. They weren't just told stories about what was happening, they were watching it unfold in real time. And this wasn't abstract stuff. It was hearing your parents whispering about the Cold War. It was seeing the national grief after an assassination. It was feeling the tension from protests that might be happening right in your own town. You see, there was no luxury of being ignorant. You just had to grow up fast. So what does all of that do to a person's mind, to their spirit? Well, it forges a very specific kind of strength, one that wasn't taught in a classroom, but was born out of pure necessity. Now, this is a really important piece of the puzzle. Back then, people just didn't have the same language we have today for talking about feelings or mental health. The focus was on just getting through it, on being tough. So as a kid, you had to figure out how to carry some incredibly heavy emotional weight all on your own. And that led to this mindset. Being resilient meant handling things internally. You didn't broadcast your struggles for the world to see, you just learned how to carry them. Now that is an incredible survival tool for sure, but it has a downside, right? It can make it really, really hard to ask for help or to even see vulnerability as anything other than a weakness. All of this experience helped grow this incredible psychological trait, which the source material calls inner authority. What is that? It's a deep, gut-level trust in your own judgment. It makes sense, right? When there's no one constantly telling you what to do or validating your choices, you have to learn to trust yourself. And here's how you built it. First, kids would just roam freely. No tracking apps, no constant check-ins. You just went out. And then you'd face consequences. You'd fall off your bike, you'd mess up, and you learned directly from it. And finally, you learned to get back up. On your own, without a big audience. That cycle, freedom, consequence, recovery, it built this powerful self-trust from the ground up. So what does a person with this kind of foundation actually look like? Let's get into the specific traits that came out of all this. These quiet and often misunderstood characteristics that really define the generation. See, their kind of resilience doesn't shout from the rooftops or post about its struggles online. It shows up quietly. It's in a deep, unspoken loyalty to people. It's in valuing the sheer endurance it takes to get through something hard. It's a strength that doesn't need applause because it was forged in private. And while that's powerful, it can also sometimes lead to a feeling of being pretty isolated. This is such a critical insight into their whole worldview. It's not that they love to struggle, but they do respect it. And why is that? Because when they were young, they learned that comfort and stability were fragile. They weren't a guarantee. So they learned how to be steady, even when things weren't comfortable at all. And because that strength is so quiet, it's easy to misunderstand. What might look like someone being emotionally distant or reserved is often just a different way of processing things internally. But, to be fair, that same resilience that was built out of necessity can sometimes be a genuine barrier, making it harder to form the kind of open, expressive, emotional bonds that younger generations might just take for granted. So, after all is said and done, what's the lasting legacy of growing up like this? Well, it's a profound and quiet resilience that still shapes who they are to this very day. Their strength isn't some relic of the past, it's active. You see it in their sense of responsibility, in their patience, and in that incredible ability to just stay calm and steady while the world feels like it's spinning out of control. Because, let's face it, they've seen it happen before. I mean, this quote just says it all. Their experiences aren't just memories in their head. It feels like they're physically and psychologically baked in. The history they lived through is a part of them, and a lot of times, their wisdom is found in the things they don't say. And let's be crystal clear about something. This is not about getting nostalgic and saying things were better back then. That's not the point. The point is that these traits, their resilience, their self-reliance, that inner authority, they weren't a lifestyle choice. They were adaptations for survival. They are stronger because they absolutely had to be. And that really brings us to the final thought here. In our current world, with all its constant noise, its public broadcasting of every emotion, and its own brand of endless uncertainty, is there something we can learn from a generation that was forged in a different kind of storm? What can their quiet strength and all its complexities teach our very, very loud world today? It's definitely something to think about.